On July 30th, we went out in our millions to share our future. For this, we must be proud as Zimbabweans. Here was a celebration of Zimbabwean democracy, a festival of unfettered freedom. With the eyes of the world on us, we delivered a free, fair, and credible election as we had always promised. Of course, there were some challenges. No democratic process is flawless. Ours was no exception. But our democratic exercise was open to the world like never before. And our freedom and openness were there for all to see, indeed, there to inspire our nation. What began on the streets last November ended with the ballot in July this year. While the violence of the last few days must be condemned loudly, it is incumbent upon us all to focus on the positive steps our country has made in spite of that tragic setback. We cannot allow the violent actions of the few to detract from the democratic expression of the many. Countrymen and women, I'm proud and humbled to have been elected to be your president. I pledge to be the president of all Zimbabweans, a president of those that voted for me and those who did not. For both must be made to belong and to participate in national processes. I will do all that is in my power to live up to the expectations of those who voted for me, and equally to prove myself to those who did not. I'm grateful for all the support and hard work of my campaign team and of the many volunteers. You worked hard, you worked passionately but peacefully. I salute you all for your efforts. I would like to commend my fellow candidates on their contribution to the democratic process. It would not have been a contest without them. We had our differences, but we joked and debated peacefully and in good spirit. We have been a credit to our people. To Nelson Chamisa, I want to say, you have a crucial role to play in Zimbabwe's present and in its future and in its unfolding future. Let us both call for peace and unity in our land. Call for both louder and ever. Let me read that again. Let us both call for peace and unity in our land. Call for both louder than ever. That is the role of leaders. That is our jointly responsibility as leaders, even though discharged and fulfilled differently. To all Zimbabweans, let me say that although we were divided at polls, we are now united in the aftermath of the democratic process, indeed in our dreams and in our aspirations. Though some will inevitably be disappointed with the outcome, I urge everyone to be calm and peaceful and to look forward. To remember that we are all brothers and sisters and that this land is all we have. Now is the time for us to come together as one, to work as one people, sharing one dream and one destiny. Whoever you voted for, now begins the time to join hands for us to forge for a better future. Let us together and ensure that we realize the bold vision that was articulated in the campaign. We all want the same thing, to be stronger and to succeed as a nation. My brothers and sisters, I have always said that the voice of the people is the voice of God. Now that the people have spoken, I hear your call. I pledge to be a listening president, a fair president, a responsible and inclusive president. I thank you, the people of Zimbabwe, for putting your faith in me to lead you for the next 5 years. I pray that I prove worthy of your trust. The time for politics is now behind us. Now begins the time for work and progress. A season of greater peace and harmony in our nation, Zimbabwe. I thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, President. His Excellency, the President, has accepted to take some few questions, and for that process, I'll request the Permanent Secretary and the Presidential Spokesperson, Comrade George Charamba, to take charge of the question session.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Your Excellency. Just as per our tradition, will you tell us who you are so the President gets to know you better, who you work for, and then put your question across. Yes.
Hello, President. My name is Violet Gwanda. I'm an independent journalist. I think right now we want to know who called the soldiers to the streets of Harare, who made that call, and what investigation have you made so far? And can you pledge to Zimbabweans that that will never happen again, where soldiers use live ammunition on civilians?
That was an unfortunate incident where some people lost their lives. I'm informed that after the burning of several vehicles, I think you've seen that, after the burning of several vehicles and the locking up of people in a room to burn them, the police were overwhelmed, and then they summoned, as is required under our Constitution, assistance from the army to stop the destruction, wanton destruction of both property in the violence that erupted at the time. I have said currently I'm president-elect, so in terms of the Constitution, I have to wait for my inauguration. But I've told the nation that I'm going to institute an independent commission to inquire into the issues you have raised. And this independent commission will both be composed by our nationals as well as foreign nationals from outside Zimbabwe, so that it has the full stamp of being an independent commission.
Thank you, President. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mnangagwa, Roland Oliver from the Daily Telegraph. You promised a new dispensation that, as has been mentioned, shoots use live rounds on civilians. And earlier this afternoon, rightfully suggested to break up a press conference by Mr. Nelson Chamisa, your main rival. Who gave that order, and what kind of a message does that send to the world about the new dispensation? Why shouldn't the world conclude those are simply empty words?
I'm advised, the minister has already stated that with the intelligence they had gathered, there was likely to be violence. But when the minister got to know about it, he immediately made sure that the media is allowed and the opposition party, I think it is the MDC Alliance, be allowed to proceed with their conference. And I'm informed that actually the conference went ahead and the entire media who wanted to be present were allowed to be present.
Let's bring the next question. Yes,
Mr. President, Chulasis from ENCA. I just want to ask about the events of Wednesday. Were you at the very least briefed at the point at which the police were summoning the help of the Zimbabwean and the likelihood of live rounds being used on civilians because we are the command?
This is what I've said. I need an independent commission to inquire as to what actually happened. And I've said I would want to have persons of integrity from Zimbabwe and persons of integrity from outside Zimbabwe to do that inquiry and then make it public.
yes, Sophie?
Sophie Mkwena from the South African Broadcasting Corporation. In terms of ensuring the unity you spoke about, the leader of the opposition has rejected the result. He is intending to challenge the result in court. Have you spoken to him to engage in terms of building the nation? As you have indicated that Zimbabweans are divided because it's about the people.
Absolutely correct. When the violence incident happened, I directed the Secretary General of my party and the Minister of Home Affairs to engage him, and he was engaged on 2 occasions with regard to our pledge for a peaceful process, and that has happened. With regard to accepting or not accepting the results, Zimbabwe is enjoying democracy. We have introduced comprehensive democracy. Any member, the public or any political party can proceed in terms of a constitution and the Electoral Act to challenge the results in the courts. And I believe that these leaders or individuals, organizations are free, in my view, to approach the courts.
Yes, Maralika.
I am the president-elect. Once I am sworn in and I become the second executive president of the Second Republic, I will exercise my prerogative rights.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about your first 100 days, right? The general perception was that they did not go according to plan. And then now you're about to be sworn in, and probably you set targets for the first 100 days. What is your plan that is different from the first 100 days since you came to power in November?
I'm surprised that there is a perception, I'm sure it exists in some of you, that it did not succeed. Have you read the results of the various clusters? Some, except perhaps 2 ministries, some scored more than 100% the targets they had put for themselves to achieve. And we are now already in the concluding the second round of 100 days. And when it finishes, we'll put the third one. I would advise that you acquaint yourselves with the issues and ask for the reports and read. Then you can ask questions with knowledge.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Samson Majo here, citizen of Zimbabwe, based in London. You spoke about rebranding and re-engaging the international community. But what hasn't come out visibly and loudly is the engagement of your ambassadors outside, who are the Zimbabweans who live outside the borders of Zimbabwe. And so in your new dispensation, what is your program in priority to bring back the skills, the ideas, or the resources from the Zimbabweans in the diaspora who are eager to contribute to the recovery of Zimbabwe?
You have spoken very well that you are from London. I have no freedom to go to London. When I became president, I visited all my peers in SADC countries. And in each single country I went to, there was somebody from South Africa. You can ask him or her. I met Zimbabweans in the diaspora, and with fantastic interchange of views. And some of them have come into groups and are already investing in the country. This is in SADC. The same has happened when I went to countries outside. Wherever I went outside Zimbabwe or SADC, I have had the opportunity of discussing with our Zimbabwean in the diaspora. It has been fantastic. I'm appealing to them to say they've been exposed to new technologies, new skills outside there. Zimbabwe is now open for business. Zimbabwe is peaceful. We want to leapfrog and catch up with the rest of developing countries, both in SADC as well as outside SADC, so that we catch up with the rest of the developing countries in terms of modernizing and industrializing our own country. And I'm so happy that our people in the diaspora are responding. I've never been to London, but I had my Minister of Foreign Affairs, S.B. Moyo, who went to London. And the report he gave me after meeting our people in the diaspora in London was very positive. If you missed that one, I hope that the next time he comes, you may not miss it.
Yes, sir.
My name is Blessed Mnangagwa, New Newsletter. Your Excellency, Mr. Groundbreaking. Can you please, in Durban, you said that you're going to bring changes in your government.
Do what? Sorry?
You're going to bring in new changes in your government once you're given.
In Durban?
In Dubai, sir, in Dubai.
Okay.
Yeah. You said you're going to bring in new changes in your government in terms of the composition of your cabinet.
Yes.
When you're given your own mandate, because as we know, you're finishing the mandate of former President Robert Mugabe. Can you tell us what kind of changes in terms of your cabinet that we might be looking at?
I remember that when I was in South Africa, that question was asked, but in a different form. Somebody, Zimbabwean, said, are you going to include younger people in cabinet? First and foremost, as the president, I have to select people from parliament, those who have been able to make it into parliament. The second thing, from that crop, you select those whom you feel have the talent, skill, or capacity to work in particular areas or endeavor in government. I'm fully aware of two things: the gender issue. In the past, I think I had only 4 or 5 women in cabinet. I would like to increase that number. I also want to increase more young people in my cabinet. But that again will be determined by a sworn-in president, not a president-elect.
As you can see, I'm not too old. Yes, madam.
That's his view.
Yes, madam.
I'm a freelancer with Audio English. I just wanted to ask, given the events that we saw on Wednesday and this afternoon by the different security forces, are we to see this as a way that your administration would respond to other future possible threats of unrest or other situations like that?
In terms of both our domestic and municipal law, and in terms of our constitution, the responsibility for maintaining law and order rests with our police. But our constitution allows for the police to call support from the military. That is when the situation has gone out of control. But otherwise, I can assure you that the service chiefs in the police have been advised that they have sole responsibility to keep law and order in the country.
Yes, sir. Welcome back.
Jason Burke from The Guardian. Are you confident that all members of your government or the government you will be appointing, parties, OPF, security agencies, and particularly the army, are committed to the vision that you...
To what?
Are committed to the vision.
To the vision.
To the vision that you
Oh, vision. Okay.
The democratic vision of a free Zimbabwe, or are you at all concerned that some might find it difficult to, let's say, move on from some of the practices that became well embedded under the previous regime?
When you have a vision, you articulate a vision. You don't expect in a democratic society that everybody will come on board. But you do your best to persuade, articulate your vision so that others can have a buy-in to where you want to go. So I cannot guarantee that everybody will share my vision. But I believe that the majority of my party members, as well as the generality of Zimbabweans, will share that vision because it is premised on development, modernization, peace and security, and unity, and love.
Yes, sir.
Mr. President-elect, Nelson has said today during this press conference that you should perhaps concede defeat. Do you have a message to him?
I'm sure I went to school. The constitution of the country, as well as the domestic and municipal law, says Zimbabwe Elections Commission, ZEC, at the conclusion of the plebiscite, pronounces the one who has won the election. And it has been pronounced that I have won the election. I have not rejected the winning. I have accepted it.
Are you happy?
I am happy.
Yes, sir. I can't quite... okay, fine. Just say...
From Business Times.
Yes.
Mr. President, last year you promised to fight corruption, but it seems the wheels have been moving slowly. And until yesterday, only one criminal has been arrested. How do you promise to...
Which criminal? Chivayo. Has been arrested? Yes. Sorry, repeat.
Sorry, please, can you come again?
I think that last year you promised to fight corruption, and until yesterday, only one criminal has been arrested.
Well,
I promise to do it better.
Are you Zimbabwean?
Yes.
Oh, good. I believe that you are aware that I was not happy with the prosecution, the NPA, the National Prosecuting Authority, because number of criminal dockets piled in that department and were not being prosecuted. And the judiciary came to see me to complain about lack of prosecution and postponement of cases. And that in terms of the law, they have a right to appeal to the president to look into that matter, and I granted them that permission. That is the process which led to the creation of the tribunal, and which led to the suspension of the Prosecutor General. And since then, I see that criminal cases in relation to corruption have been set for hearing. I have no doubt that there will be change because I am against corruption. I have also asked the NPA to give authority to those lawyers, criminal lawyers, prosecutors in the private sector who are willing to render service in order to prosecute and move these cases in court. This is where we are. So if you're a Zimbabwean, I think you should compliment me for my consistency.
I'm mindful of the fact that you've requested the president to take a walk in the garden, but just before he does so, can I take
Want me to walk where?
In your garden, sir. They want to walk with you, sir.
What are you going to do this morning? And secondly, What is the government going to do? Is it planning to reach out to the victims of the disabilities on Wednesday?
I'll deal with the last part. With regard to the last part, I've directed the Chief Secretary to the Office of the President Cabinet to assist the families of those who died as a result of the tragic violence which attended us on Wednesday. That's what has happened. So they are being assisted, and those who have been injured are being assisted. I've given those instructions. With regard to the issue as to when will be the inauguration, we have a constitution. If you look into the constitution, it says at the end of the pronouncement, conclusion of the elections, the constitution gives 9 days before an inauguration can be undertaken. So this morning, the plebiscite, the electoral process ended this morning. So you count 9 days if you can count. Count 9 days from here to that, whatever date. Then after that, I have the right to select a date for inauguration.
Could we have the last question? Well, Mr. President, oh, yes, I see there's one more.
President-elect, my name is Chris Forsher with the Associated Press. How would you respond to some of the assessments and criticisms of the international election observers? For example, the EU said that there wasn't a level playing field, referred to cases of soft intimidation. I'm sure you're aware of these criticisms.
I'm so happy with the EU report when they met me. They told me that there was peace and transparency and freedom during the campaign period. It was peaceful. They've also told me that the voting process was peaceful and transparent and well managed. However, there are areas where we can improve, both in the terms of during the campaign period, in the areas of access to your business, what is it called? Radio, and so on. That's what they're recommending. In other gray areas, that we must increase the number of polling stations in areas where there's concentration so that people do not stay in the queue for longer periods. This is what they've told me officially, and I have a copy of their briefing to me, but together with the other heads of missions yesterday.
At which point, Comrade President, I would invite you to take a walk about in your garden, sir.
Thank you, sir. Who will be near me?
Who volunteers to be near the president? Okay. You have to shoot there.
All right, well, there you have it. That's President-elect